Hey, college wrestling fans, it's JT1Wrestle here, and today's guest is one of our newer programs in the National Junior College Athletic Association. Please welcome head coach Brian Kenney of Northern Oklahoma Tonkawa. Thanks for being
How's it
on the
going,
program.
everybody? Appreciate it.
Well, coach, let's do a little history here, real quick. So, the Maverick Wrestling program originally started by Arthur Sweet. It was pretty successful back in the 60s and 70s. You had Lee Standoffer and Bill Thornton, both NJCAA finalists. Unfortunately, the program is discontinued in 1984. Take us on the journey of what it took to bring wrestling back to Northern Oklahoma.
So, actually, I was coaching high school in the Dallas area. Um, Saw the job was posted, um, you know, reached out, didn't hear anything. Well, what I've got a call back in November of last year, um, kind of found out where they were in the process. So, what it was people in the community, a couple of people that had wrestled on those last couple of teams in the 80s really were pushing NOC to, get the program back. So it was kind of spearheaded by, Todd Glasgow, and he was a former Medill head coach, and a couple other, booster club members, people who live in the community. And kind of what the process was, well, obviously wasn't on the budget for that year for NOC. They needed to fundraise pretty much for year one and startup costs, and then NOC would kind of take over for that first competition year, if that makes sense. So I talked to the AD in November, came up, interviewed with everybody. It was a, full, did a Zoom meeting first, sorry. Came up, met everybody face to face and toured the campus, and then called home and was like, babe, I think this is it. And, my wife was like, wait, what's going on here? Hang on. And wait, where are we going? Tonkawa? And I was like, because that's, if you look it up on Alexa, that's what Alexa calls it, but it is Tonkawa. And I got to go to a diner that morning in town, and really the community really sold me on the position. Um, One of the guys was introducing me to everyone in the diner as the new head coach, even though I hadn't interviewed yet. And I was like, what if people don't, what if I don't get this? He's like, well, you'll probably never come back here if you don't get it. So what does it matter? So I was like, all right, well, that makes sense. And, it just really sold me. There was a grandma there and was like, coach, you let me know when the team starts and I'm going to bring the grandkids. And then a little kid walks in with cowboy boots and his, brother's high school jacket that was about mid knee level. And, I called my wife. I was like, all right, this is, we're going in the middle of wrestling country, and, this is where I want to raise our kids.
Seen the film. It's a Michael J. Fox film. It's called Doc Hollywood.
Yep.
Have you seen that film?
It's been a while, but yeah. Yep.
There's a scene in the movie where he's introduced at a diner as the new doctor, even though he's
Okay.
never hired for it or anything. So when you said that about the about being in the diner and they introduced you as the new wrestling coach, it reminded me of that scene in that film.
Nice. Nice. Just putting it out
So
in the universe there. So yeah, it
yeah,
was good.
yeah. So your first season back on the mat was last year, 2024, 2025. You guys achieved your first NJCAA qualifier in Camden Young at 197 pounds. What did it mean to the Maverick program to have a qualifier in year one?
I mean, honestly, it was huge. And, Camden, kind of backstory on Camden, he had wrestled for Cali College a couple of years ago, towards ACL at nationals, was just working. When he, heard we had the program, decided he wanted to finish his degree and give college wrestling a shot again. And so, he took a bet on us, and, obviously we took a gamble on him, and, having him be our first national qualifier was awesome, and 42 years. And then we followed it up with we had a second one, Christian Clark, who ended up actually getting a wild card bid because he really he hurt his ankle in the regional, then got to nationals, and they both ended up winning two matches at nationals. Which, kind of the crazy thing about Christian is he was actually the backup to Camden at 97. So, he wrestled nationals at, I think, 205 or 207, something like that, where there were a couple guys he wrestled looked like Vikings that, it showed there was a visible difference of what a true heavyweight and Christian were looking like. And, having both of those guys as training partners working together all year, was really awesome. And now
You know, the
Camden's actually going to stay and be our assistant coach this year, and then Christian's returning. So having those guys training together again, and Camden's grappling now and doing some MMA stuff, and he's a personal trainer at mine and my wife's gym now too. So kind of creating that family and that pipeline for these guys after they graduate.
So will Christian be down at 197 this upcoming season?
He's probably going to go heavyweight. So
Okay.
he's really spent this summer in the gym and in the fall, and he's looking like a heavyweight now.
Well, good deal. I also wanted to ask you about your women's program. They were extremely successful last year. Talk a little bit
Definitely.
about Coach Jaden Miller and what he's doing on the women's side of things.
So it's a pretty cool setup we had, and I'll be honest, I wasn't sure how it would work at first, but I'm the head men's coach and then assistant women's, and then Jaden's head women's, assistant men's. And honestly, we work great together. Um, we both kind of have the same, facial hairstyle, and you know, tell people he's my son. We go out to dinner and stuff, and mathematically he probably could be, but no, what Jaden's been able to do on the women's side as well. I mean, we had um, four blood rounders on the women's side, three of which are returning, and on the women's side, only top six All American. So if it was top eight, woulda, coulda, shoulda, we could have had four. We probably would have had four All Americans, which would have been pretty amazing for a year one program. But with the depth of the women's program, and right now, for year two, he has 30 women coming in for year two, and um, he's really doing an awesome job. And it's kind of funny, he kind of does more of the recruiting for the women. We're probably 85-15 for each other's programs, and then we work in the practice room with each other. So it's really fun being able to be the nice coach for the women's team, and you know have to be the mean coach for the guys. So
Coach, you have a extensive background in both Greco-Roman and freestyle. You coach the U15 Pan American team, and you were also a developmental coach at the Olympic Training Center. How is being schooled in multiple disciplines of our sport an advantage compared to someone that is only familiar with folk style?
honestly, it's to me it's crazy to not do multiple styles. And with my own son, will start wrestling this year. He just turned 5, and I've been trying to get my daughter to. It just hasn't worked yet. She's our dancer, but with that, you don't know what you're going to be good at. And especially as these kids hit puberty and their body, grows, changes, a kid who might have been a good folk style wrestler at 6 is actually a better Greco wrestler at 14, or vice versa. And it's just kind of giving yourself that opportunity. I mean, what if you could we went to the beach nationals this year and qualified 5 kids for the beach world games. And, we have a couple of kids that one of the guys who qualified, he took second at the, beach nationals. He wasn't even a starter for us at NOC this year. But, his style of wrestling really, you know, really led well to beach. And he was just freakishly strong and wasn't a big shooter. And so, he kind of dared everybody to shoot on him in beach and, threw him out of bounds. And so to me, I mean, it just opens up more doors for success. Now we're starting to see some more Greco programs with obviously Northern Michigan's always been there, but now Doan's having a Greco only program. Um, and then for freestyle, to me, it's insane to not have the girls in high school, focusing on freestyle because college wrestling's freestyle for women. So, I really think it's putting people, behind the eight ball, especially on the girls' side, if they, have never been in parterre before. And we had that this year. We had, teaching girls, okay, no more stand-ups, no more stand-ups. Some of that, and obviously, I joked that I was the Greco coach for the women and Jaden was the leg grabbing coach for the women. And, some of those girls really bought into that. And, also for the guys, when as a high school coach, I always had a lot of kids that came from football when I was in Dallas. They hadn't wrestled before high school, but we had big, athletic, strong kids. And really, and I've preached this to a lot of people, when you're trying to get kids from football, the football coaches see leg, us rubber knee in and shin whizzing as an ACL tear, and the kid's going to be out for the season. There's no way your knee can bend that way. Well, for Greco, he just has to drive him out of bounds. That looks like run blocking. There we go. And we end up having 15 heavyweights on our high school team that year when we really focused on Greco that spring. And, as when you're afraid, or that's in the back of your head, maybe I shouldn't say afraid, but that dude can throw you on your head, or woman, it changes what your offense is going to do. And, I really think, to me that opens up a lot of doors and, sets up different things that maybe would not be open when you're afraid that I'm going to launch you. So to me, I mean, I just, the more you can learn different styles, I don't understand how, it's like 7-on-7 football. Well, people are like, oh, well, he's going to lock his hands in folk style. No, you're not. It's the same if you play 3-on-3 basketball or 5-on-5 basketball. It's a difference. Every kid grows up playing 21, playing basketball. Every kid ends up playing, you don't go to the free throw line after you score a basket. What the rules are. They're just different. 7-on-7 versus tackle football. Well, those are different, but aren't they helping those kids? So that's really the way that I look at it. And, I just think it makes wrestling more fun. I don't know about everybody else, but, drilling pass and stand-ups come March gets kind of old.
Same way.
Oh, sorry, I lost you there.
Can you hear me okay now?
I got you now.
All right, excellent. I must have had the microphone too far from my face. Um, so the next question I wanted to ask you is Tonkawa is located in north central Oklahoma, providing a short distance for young men and women who want to be part of the National Junior College Athletic Experience in Oklahoma, as well as those from nearby Kansas and nearby Texas. Now, you being from Texas, you know as well as I do that we do have some programs. We have Shriner, we have Texas Wesleyan. Because we're going to talk about it a little bit later. We have a new program coming to McMurray. We have hopefully another new program coming to Tarleton State. But overall, there is and there has been for such a long time so little opportunity in Texas for high school wrestlers to find a home nearby to wrestle at in college. Tonkawa provides that home now. What does it mean to you to be able to provide a home for wrestlers in Texas to wrestle nearby where they grew up?
I mean, it's huge. And honestly, actually, I'm from Illinois originally. I grew up in Chicago area. We moved to Dallas right after college, and I started coaching, and then we moved to Tampa for 2 years. Came back to Dallas, but most of my coaching career was in Dallas, and really, that was a hard sell of even getting a barrier entry of, well, why should I start wrestling? I can't wrestle in college. Well, you could, but you got to go here. And, a lot of those kids didn't, okay, if I'm not going to OSU, I'm not going to OU. Where, what are my options? And, giving kids, in Oklahoma, we've got 54 boys on the team right now, on our roster for this year. Uh, we're 3 managers on the guys' side, 30 girls on the girls' side, and 2 managers on the girls' side for a school of 750 people. So we have, about 14% of the student body are wrestlers, which is a pretty unique and awesome, situation. And really it's you know, giving kids a opportunity to wrestle at a cost that's not gonna, you know, bury them for the rest of their lives. And, we have academic scholarships, we have wrestling scholarships, and, we have in-state tuition waivers. There's all these opportunities to make wrestling affordable. And honestly, NOC is the lowest cost option for Texas or Oklahoma kids that aren't, the 4-time state champion, the kid that maybe is a 3-time state qualifier, a 1-time state placer that wants to keep wrestling, but's not getting a call from OSU right now, and not saying in 2 years they won't, because that was one thing that I really pushed when I was in Texas is the junior college route. And, some people think I'm crazy and some people didn't. And it just kind of happened to be that I ended up being a junior college coach. But, giving those kids 2 more years to develop. And, hey, you only start wrestling as a freshman in high school or 7th grade. Well, you're competing against kids that started wrestling, at 3. You There's some time you've got to make up. And, with saying that, junior college gives you 2 years to develop, gives you 2 years of college at I don't want to say cheaper, that's bad, at lower cost, that you're going to take the same type of classes that you will at a 4-year, your first 2 years of college. So, give yourself an opportunity. And now with NIL and everything else in the college world, you come be a junior college All-American or a national champion, then you're getting that D1 phone call. You're getting that D2 phone call with scholarship money, or a small NIL deal. Those things are real for those top guys in junior college. So why not give yourself an opportunity? And especially, not to hurt people's feelings, but not many freshmen are going to make the starting or the dual team lineup at a 4-year college. I don't care what college you go to, because you're an 18-year-old, boy or girl wrestling against some 22, 23-year-old, you know, grown adults. And that, and that's the real reality of it. And every weekend we're wrestling those same schools anyway. We're all going to the same opens. I mean, we had kids on our team wrestle against Oklahoma State, wrestle against OU, wrestle against, OCU, Central Oklahoma. We duel a couple 4 years. So to me, really, what's the difference?
You speak about the pros and the advantages of wrestling at a national junior college. Um, Speaking specifically to Northern Oklahoma, another huge advantage of going there is that it has a phenomenal academic presence. You guys have I mean, for a junior college, you guys have a humongous list of associate degrees that can be earned in both the arts and the sciences. Plus, 75% of the students that go to Northern Oklahoma graduate with zero debt. Can you speak a little bit to that?
And the other part, as a former high school teacher, we have a pipeline program that if you get an associate's at NOC, and that's what I talk to parents about. Hey, best case scenario, your kid comes here, wins a junior college national title, gets you know, a great NIL deal to go D1, and they go to D1 and, become an All-American there, and they're set. Well, worst case scenario, you come here, you get to wrestle 2 years, you're on a team, maybe you never make our varsity. And then we have a pipeline program because we're the little brother, little sister school for Oklahoma State. You take that associate's degree and you're accepted at OSU.
Oh, wow.
And then now you're going to take your final engineering classes, business classes, and get a degree from Oklahoma State. To me, that's a no brainer. I mean, and not to knock 4 year schools. I mean, I went to one and it was a great experience, but not everybody. That's not for everybody. I mean, I remember my first lecture hall with 300 people in it. I felt like a deer in headlights, and I was like, I'm not raising my hand in front of all these people to ask a question. There's no way. And and that's a real concern for a lot of kids that where do you fit? And at NOC, I mean, with being a 750 kid school, we don't have football. Wrestling and baseball are our two biggest programs, baseball, softball, per amount of kids. And I think this year we're going to be the biggest program in our second year. Wrestling is going to be the biggest program on campus, which is unheard of in college athletics.
Looking over your schedule, you guys have Murray State this year, which is a brand new program. It'll be their first year on the mat, and probably going to butcher the name of this town, but I think it's pronounced Tishomingo, Oklahoma.
Dude,
Am I even close?
that's how I say it, Tishomingo. I mean, it's pretty close, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, honestly, with them starting a program, is great. It gives us more competition in Oklahoma. Um, north of the border in Kansas, there's I think 8 junior colleges with wrestling, and for the longest time, there was just Neo in Oklahoma. Then Carl Albert started a few years ago. I think they're on year 6, if I'm not mistaken. Then us last year, and now Murray State, which makes it a little bit more competitive recruiting wise too. I mean, we're all going after similar kids, and but with saying that, I mean, now we've been able to make our own little, what I call, we made up our own Oklahoma Wrestling Conference, which isn't anything official, but during January when the Kansas schools are wrestling their Jayhawk conference, now we set a dual schedule. We're all going to wrestle each other in January, and crown our own Oklahoma dual meet championship of the world. And it makes it more fun. I mean, dual meets are fun. Who doesn't want to wrestle against? I mean, we went to Neo last year, and we went to Labette, and some of those are some of the top programs in the country. We went to Cali, and they came to us last year, which are all some heated duels, and that's what makes fans, and that's what makes it fun. And I know we know a lot of the kids and that are at Murray State this year, and um, I've coached them on national teams, or they've been on coached against them when I was in Texas, and vice versa. And that's what makes fun duels is having that. I grew up in the Chicago area, and man, our duels were brutal. Parents be yelling at each other across the stands. I mean, I remember a mom yelling at me for beating her kid. That's awesome. That's what I like to see. And really our Cali duels were lived up to that because we're only 30 minutes away from each other. So, it was a lot of fun. And, having that competition is awesome. I mean, I think it's going to make all of our programs more competitive because we've got to get better, to be the best in Oklahoma, and then keep going. And you're saying with our schedule, last year, our dual meet schedule was our record was bad, but I looked, we wrestled 10 of the top 15 teams in the country in duels last year. Okay, well, we weren't one of the top 10 teams in the country last year. That's okay. We're a first year program, but we know where we need to be now.
On the schedule, you guys also have a brand new NCAA Division III program which will be the second NCAA Division III program in Texas, McMurray and Abilene, Texas. Um, Seeing with looking at Murray State, looking at you guys, looking at Abilene, could probably talk a few other programs as well. What do you feel about the growth of college wrestling, especially in the area that you're in?
I mean, it's awesome. That's what we need. And I think, you know, having and there's some schools in Texas and coaches that I've talked to that, they're using NOC as a talking point. Hey, this you need we need numbers at this small school. Well, these Texas kids are going to NOC and they're going to, you know, over the border to, Murray State. Why don't we have wrestling? Don't you want another 50 kids on your campus? And there's not many presidents or finance offices that don't right now. And, and yeah, I've known Lance, the coach there. He was at Jarvis, and we were actually both just at the NWCA leadership convention this last week. And yeah, we actually got a home and away with them now. We're going to go to them over Christmas break. And, yeah, they're a first year program. And, um, like any first year program, I, I do kind of feel bad for Murray and Murray State both creating programs the first year was a little confusing, I think, for everybody to wrap their mind around. But you know,
Wrong school the first time I looked it up, so I know
yeah,
what you
yeah,
mean.
yeah, Mick Murray and Murray State. But honestly, that's hey, if that's the worst thing that happens, we have too many programs starting at the same time is awesome. It's just giving kids more opportunities that most of us didn't have.
I want to switch gears here just a little bit on you. I want to ask you just kind of a fun question. I know looking over Northern Oklahoma, you guys have a live mascot, Mav. Can you have you had an opportunity to meet him yet? And will we ever see him at a home duel?
Oh yeah, no, I've asked, could I ride Mav into a dual meet, and it was a solid no. I just thought that would be really cool. I mean, you're not going to lose a dual meet if you ride a bull into a mascot. Now it is a steer. Again, I'm learning the difference about cattle and what all that means. But yeah, no, we'll run from NOC and go pet Mav and go say hi, Mav. We'll run from the wrestling room, and he's about a mile down the road. We'll go pet Mav and then run up to my gym and do an outside workout, flipping tires, and then come back. We've got kind of a lap that we go visit Mav as much as we can. And it's funny, he doesn't like me, but he loves my kids. My kids come up and pet him and, you know, feed him, and then I go to pet him and he tries to, headbutt me with his horns. So um, and it is funny that he will walk in, he does walk in like the Tonkawa parade and that. And but yeah, he likes women. He does not like men. So it's kind of a unique situation. But no, I think that's awesome. I mean that I drive recruits over there, when they come on campus, and it's just kind of one of those things that is not very common. Um, you know, in any colleges right now. I mean, I know Texas has Bevo and that, but yeah, that's awesome to me. I think that's a lot of fun. But yeah, they're not going to let me ride him into a duel. We did discuss creating like a little pen in front of the door outside. But I don't, I think the Mav patties on the sidewalk in front of this gym were kind of frowned upon, but I thought it'd be awesome.
I'm with you. I think it'd be a lot of fun to like maybe like try to like put like a little singlet on his horns or something too,
Oh
or
yeah.
headgear maybe headgear on the side
Right.
of the
Yeah. Just
horns.
swing a headgear. I think I could probably get the headgear. I don't know if I'm a little nervous trying to fit a singlet over his neck. His
Yeah.
neck's a little bigger than mine.
Alrighty, coach. My last question for you today is I was wondering if you could tell us about both the Stamp Out for Starvation and the Cherokee celebration that are celebrated there at Northern Oklahoma.
So, I mean, part of our program is, servant leadership and being appreciative for the opportunities that you have. And, that's something we talk about a lot. Um, and, we were able to, there's a lot of opportunities in our area to give back. And, we do a lot of that. We're in the Perry Parade, the Cherokee Day Parade. We've did Stamp Out Hunger with it's a big initiative with our athletic department, one of our local churches. Um, and I believe we create 1,200 meals, if I'm not mistaken. These I kind of they almost remember MREs, but they're packaged. We put them all together. We had all the athletes on campus there. It really was a um, fun afternoon, and given those opportunities to kids, and for example, my son rode in the parade on his little John Deere, Hot Wheels tractor with cowboy boots, a cowboy hat, and a singlet. And, everyone's, oh, that was the kid in a singlet. He's got a matching everything, the team gets, he's got to get a matching one. And, he drove us through the parade in Perry. And, there were a couple festivals that we were able to help with and set up booths and just kind of get the word out about, what's going on at NOC and, what programs we offer and how could we help. And we actually did also, add a program with our local vocational school for kids that are looking to go that route that, want to become welders, but want to still go to get an associate's degree or, get into electrical or the police department, fire department. So, all of those new opportunities, we were able to be a part of and, talk to people about it and also let them know that, hey, we got wrestling. We're here. I know you heard rumors about it. It was on Facebook, but it's actually happening. Here's everybody, and letting the community also meet our wrestlers, and we help with our youth program in town, and we've been able to really do a lot with the community and getting the community tied in with the team and vice versa. So it's been a lot of fun, and it does help obviously with my having a family and my kids are in town and they're around the program and my son and daughter are at every dual meet screaming and along with my wife and that's it's been a it's been a fun process.
Well, Coach, here at JT1 Wrestle, we want to thank you for being a part of the program today. And we wish the Maverick Wrestling program the best of success in 2025, 2026.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Hope to talk to you guys soon.